The story starts with a glimpse of a floating body in the river. The corpse's face is turned away, so it's hard to tell who the unfortunate soul was. Herve Kargan is outside a house having a smoke, while sounds of merriment emanate from within. It's Nina's birthday, and people are gathered round a table, singing and clapping to celebrate the young girl, as she blows out the cake's candles in her party hat. Nina is Kristofia's daughter, where Kristofia is a friend and colleague of Herve's. Herve and Kristofia are in the kitchen, and Kristofia is doing the dishes. He mentions he's just closed a deal with a pharmaceutical company, but Herve is more interested in his hair, which looks different. So he asks Kristofia if he dyed it. Kristofia admits he did and wonders how Herve noticed, seemingly forgetting his friend is a detective, and good ones see things. Herve probes if Kristofia has dyed his hair to impress his wife, Lawrence. At that moment, she walks in to drop something, and before she leaves, she teasingly asks if the two men are up to no good. Herve drills his friend with a suspecting stare before he gets a call needing his presence. Kristofia reveals he's met someone, but there's no time to talk about it as Herve has to leave, so he bids his friend goodbye. Herve's steps are with urgency. He and a fellow officer, Bianchini, put on their police ribbons and pass a fleet of cars already at the crime scene. Karina meets him and updates it was a ranger that found the body in the water. The corpse had been there all night. The three officers approach the exhibited corpse with two forensic investigators doting around it. Herve asks one of the investigators how long the victim has been deceased, and the reply is less than 24 hours. There are clear marks of strangulation, some scratches, and a stain that could most likely be blood. The victim's eyes are wide open and glassed over, with his mouth slightly agape, most likely recognizing before he passed away. Karina checks the ID retrieved from his wallet to see the deceased was named Vincent Bouvier, born in Saint Etienne on the 25th of December 1988. The next course of action is to call the station for identification. Herve needs his parents' address so they can pay them a visit and drop the breaking news. Herve also wonders if Vincent has a police record. Forensics retrieve and bag a silver bracelet that Karina identifies as Indian make. One of the experts reveals a concealed wound that he suggests was caused by a blunt object, like a baseball bat. Someone else takes numerous pictures of the body from various angles, and from the way Herve sniffs the air, it's most likely the stench of decay getting to him, and he would rather the photographer hurries up so they can wrap up. Once upon a time, Vincent's eyes weren't so void or his skin so discolored. The past shows Vincent munching on a snack with earphones plugged in and his eyes trained on his computer. He's chatting with someone who asks his readiness to meet a client. He gets up, grabs a can of drink from a cooler, and returns back to his system in the cyber room. He doesn't fail to lock eyes with Rebecca as he walks past. He returns back to his chat, but Rebecca still has her eyes on him. The conversation gets to a place where the other party, Spartacus, requests a recent photo of Vincent. Vincent quickly looks around and calls the attention of Rebecca to help him take a picture of him. He lies, saying the photo is for a friend of his studying in the United States, one who he hasn't seen him in 6 months. Rebecca takes the picture. The second attempt is better because he has a natural smile on. They introduce themselves, and while he tells her his friends call him Vince, she opts for Vincent instead. She's about to leave with her apprehensive friend when Vincent calls back her attention, asking that they stay in contact. Excited, Rebecca gives him her number. Herve and Karina arrive at Vincent's family home. They meet his sister and mother, the sister more vocal where the mother is seemingly lost in grief. She tells the detectives that they last saw Vincent at their mother's birthday. He lived at a mobile home in Lavalette Caravan Park. He was very discreet with his personal life, maybe a few jobs here and there. Herve asks to take a look at Vincent's bedroom, and he's granted access while Karina continues her interrogation. His room's walls are framed with various pictures of his younger self. Herve takes off one of the photos from the wall for a closer look. Vincent's mom walks into the room, musing about how nothing has changed since Vincent left home. The next scene is another time travel. Vincent takes a shower after a session with a client. He gets dressed and picks up the cash the client has left on the table stand before walking out the hotel. He then dials Rebecca, reminding her he's the guy from the cyber cafe, and they get together for a lunch date. Rebecca asks what he does for a living, and he tries to be sleek. But after a giggle, her innocent smile, her eager eyes, and the repeated question, he tells her he works in real estate. He garnishes the lie with words about working as a freelancer for a friend, and Rebecca eats it up. He throws the baton to her, and she tells him she's in her HSC. They go shopping and head back to his place. It's not what she was expecting for someone who works in real estate, but he promises her it's temporary. They get inside and Vincent leads with a kiss that only intensifies until they're both nude and caressing each other in bed. Rebecca especially toys with Vincent's chest tattoo, mentioning that she loves the design. Vincent tells her she can stay the night if she wants, and she agrees since her mom is away on work. She reveals to Vincent her mom is a long-haul stewardess, and she doesn't know her dad. Done with a background check, she straddles him and suggests they have a vodka apple on ice, although there's no ice in the fridge. Karina and Herve are now in Vincent's trailer home, going through his things. There's a bag packed up that suggests he was about to take off somewhere. There are photographs of Vincent and Rebecca together on his dressing mirror, and Karina notes they appear to have been in love. She also finds female toiletries in the bathroom. Herve pockets one of the pictures, then notices blood on the wall. He calls out to Karina to cease touching stuff, as they'll have to contact the station. The blood spatter assures him Vincent was murdered in his home. While Herve is out for a smoke, Karina comes to him with a small bag of cash, 4,000 euros at least, judging from the size of the bundle. When the pair aren't on detective duties, they play a game of table tennis. Herve offers to give Karina a ride afterwards, but she declines, stating she's meeting with someone. Herve isn't happy to hear this, obvious from the way he serves the tennis ball too hard when it gets to him. He takes a shower while Karina gets changed. He probes about her mystery date, and Karina divulges she met him online, a graphic designer she's about to meet for the first time. Herve nags about how it could be a meetup one moment and intimacy the next. Karina teases him for being jealous. Herve eats alone at a restaurant, but Karina joins him shortly after, complaining how her date was a total turn-off. Herve opines she must have scared or intimidated him, then asks if this was her first online date. She responds it wasn't, and over a shot of liquor, it becomes clear Herve fancies Karina and Karina doesn't have a clue. At the department, Herve has a criminal record on Vincent. He was arrested with another guy that now works in a sauna, so Herve instructs Bianchini to check out the sauna guy. Herve goes to Rebecca's home, and her mother is the one who answers the door. Rebecca isn't home, so Herve relays the news of Vincent's passing to Rebecca's mom, stating Rebecca would have to be interrogated. The news comes to her as a shock, and she shows the detective a note Rebecca left behind. It's addressed to her mom, saying she's fine and will call soon. Rebecca's mom leaves a voicemail for her, while Herve is permitted to go check out her room. From her room upstairs, Herve can still hear Rebecca's mom calling someone else to know if Rebecca is with them. He's going through Rebecca's stuff when the mother walks in. The mother admits Rebecca didn't have a job after Herve finds hidden cash among her things, together with some illegal substances. He makes her understand the police will need to go on a hunt, searching in likely places she could be. Herve asks the mom to drop a list of her friends to contact. Rebecca and Vincent go to a party where Vincent introduces Rebecca to his friend, Thomas. Vincent leaves Rebecca for a moment to get them drinks. Thomas clears the room so it's just them both, then voices out he'd been expecting Vincent earlier. He lets Vincent know he has 2 clients the next day and 1 extra on Thursday. Out of the 3 in total, Thomas tells Vincent he's already familiar with 2 of them. Vincent hands over the cash that should seal their business deal, but complains 2 clients for the next day is more than he would appreciate. Vincent returns to Rebecca with her drinks, and they dance for a while. Thomas watches them with a cold demeanor before turning away. Vincent drives Rebecca back home on his motorcycle and promises to pick her up from school the following day. When she enters the house, her mom is waiting with questions about her time out. At first, Rebecca tries to play clueless, but it's no use. Her mom proposes Rebecca invites him for dinner, which Rebecca doesn't feel up to. Then her mom asks if Rebecca loves him, and Rebecca decides it's time to head up to the privacy of her room. The next day, Vincent waits to pick up Rebecca as promised. Herve goes through Vincent's posthumous photographs, as if looking for an answer from the different snapshots. The photos don't help, and Herve leaves his seat to find someone is being interrogated. Bianchini explains they have Thomas, Vincent's friend, who didn't know anything about Vincent's explicit hustle. Herve interrogates a friend of Rebecca named Belen, who states she has no idea where Rebecca is. Herve notices Belen has an expensive bag and shoes that doesn't add up to her financially modest status. He, however, decides not to pick too much on it and informs Belen her friend's boyfriend is deceased. Should she find Rebecca, she can break the news to her. Vincent draws with a marker, a similar tattoo to the one on his chest, on Rebecca's back. At some point, they return inside and get high. Vincent receives a text, and Rebecca, who still believes he's a real estate agent, jokes it must be a client, a family man, contacting for his dream house. Vincent teases back with a half-truth of the text, coming from a married male client with a attraction to younger boys. Rebecca, none the wiser, sheepishly asks where he's winded up such a plot. Wondering it's rooted from his sexual fantasies, Vincent bursts her bubble and tells her he's serious. He lets on Thomas organizes his clients via the internet, and it's what he's done to make a living. He doesn't work in real estate. He tries to tell her with a kiss that nothing changes with his revelation, but Rebecca pulls away, trying to get her thoughts straight. She starts to put on her clothes, geared up to leave. He tells her he's been at it for 2 years, and she asks if it's something he enjoys doing. He claims it's strictly business, but it's not enough to keep Rebecca a second longer in his house. He leaves a voicemail, saying he didn't want to lie to her, nor does he want any secrets between them because he loves her. The police raid the sauna room filled with a number of men, and their target, Mikkel, takes off running while nude. Herve is able to tackle him just as he gets to the streets and haul him back in for questioning. Mikkel's answer to when he last saw Vincent is that they stopped working the same way a while back. Mikkel gets his clients from the sauna and Vincent got his from the internet. Mikkel infers Vincent must have met his clients in hotels or in their homes. Sometimes, if they were rich enough, clients called Vincent to villas like the St. Bonnet for orgies. Herve interrogates a woman who admits she and her husband have hired Vincent's services severally in the past. She explains she always did it with her husband present, not without him, and they paid Vincent to be with them exclusively at hotels, not at villas or clubs. Vincent is at a hotel with a client that's becoming attached. The man proposes they see the following week, which Vincent agrees to. On the account, it's business as usual. The man expresses his needs to spend more time with Vincent, probably get to know him better over dinner, but Vincent shuts down the motive and turns down a kiss on the lips when the client attempts it. He's still at the hotel when Rebecca calls to his surprise. She tells him she followed him and wants to know what room he's in as she's currently waiting downstairs. He gives her the room number, and by the time she comes in, he's in the bath. She tries to make conversation about the client he just had, but Vincent prefers she joins him in the bath. They splash around, get drinks, then return to the bath. Rebecca gifts Vincent the bracelet from India. Karina will recover later. After their bath, they get in bed and bop to a music channel on the hotel's TV screen. Vincent starts with a kiss on the side of her face, and Rebecca turns it into a deeper kiss on the lips. With the mood set, Vincent's kisses travels down Rebecca's skin, then up again to her waiting lips. He thrusts himself in, and their bodies and breaths sink in rhythm as they surrender to the moment. When it is over, Rebecca expresses her willingness to witness him with a client. Karina helps Herve navigate through the dating site. They find Vincent's profile. From the looks of it, either Vincent posed as underage or he started his prostitution career while underage. Herve decides to send a message to the profile in hopes of gauging a leading response. Karina and Herve are driving around when the conversation leads to revealing Karina is very familiar with dating sites, as it's where she's spent a good amount of her free time. She states it's not too crazy as long as it's kept online. Herve opines it's just a recipe for disaster either way. Karina wants to know if Herve finds her delusional for believing in the system of online dating as a means to find true love. They drive through the St. Bonnet Villa and let themselves into one of the houses. The house is grand, expensive looking, and was empty before the detectives came. They seemingly find nothing of importance, and Herve leaves first to smoke, Karina joining shortly after. She notices he appears preoccupied, and he admits the case is getting to him. He reveals he got someone pregnant while he was just starting his career and abandoned her. They were in love, but he wasn't ready to be a father. Older now, with a case surrounding teenagers, he's realizing any one of them could easily be his child he has to protect. Herve gets home and finds his pal, Christophe, waiting for him. Christophe tells him he's been needing someone to talk to, then asks if he can spend the night over. Herve asks if his wife is aware, and Christophe says she is. Over drinks, he divulges his affair with a colleague who's also married. Christophe fears his friend will judge him, but Herve refutes he would have rather just remained in the dark. Christophe lets on that he wasn't really expecting Herve to understand with his record of lack of commitment. Herve has no response and eventually bids his friend goodnight. Christophe is full of gratitude that Herve is kind enough to let him spend the night. Thomas is at Vincent's place, smoking a cigarette in Vincent's bed, while Vincent is on the computer, chatting with a client. Vincent asks Thomas to help find a bisexual client for him and Rebecca, but Thomas believes involving Rebecca is a bad idea because he finds her too unseasoned. The meeting with the client is set up regardless. A typical hotel room with a client on the couch, watching Vincent play with Rebecca. The foreplay happens on the client's command. Rebecca is visibly tense and uncomfortable, but Vincent whispers everything will be fine. At some point, the client gets out of his chair to feel Rebecca for himself, but Vincent maneuvers the client back to the chair, distracting him with pleasure. So Rebecca is left alone. Vincent gets to meet Rebecca's mom over dinner. Rebecca had already told her beforehand. Vincent is a real estate agent, and Vincent adds the recited lie that business is a bit slow at the moment. When he's alone with Rebecca in her room, he hands over her share of the payment she at first declined. She finally accepts the money and stores it in a box that Herve would eventually find later in the course of the investigation. Karina and Herve play table tennis, but Herve's serves are subpar and Karina is on edge. In the locker room, she expresses her urgency to become a mother as time is ticking, and indirectly asks Herve if he would like to be her sperm donor. He declines, and it puts her more on edge. She bids him good night to resume their work the following day. Rebecca and Vincent have a chat with their current client, who is an eye surgeon, prone to excessive work and illicit affairs. The session starts and both Rebecca and Vincent get to work. The surgeon takes a hungry look at Rebecca and gets out of the bed, ordering Rebecca to follow him. Vincent and Rebecca share a quick glance before Rebecca obeys, following the surgeon into the bathroom. In there, the surgeon gets domineering, then aggressive, then hitting Rebecca hard across the face. Rebecca cries out to Vincent, who comes running to her aid. He beats up the surgeon, and the couple take off running out of the hotel. Vincent tries to calm Rebecca down, but she shouts at him to leave her alone, her mind set on going home. Thomas comes to Vincent the next day, needing an explanation on what happened with the surgeon. He mentions the surgeon would like to see Vincent again to apologize, but Vincent replies he isn't interested, also remarking that Rebecca won't be involved any longer. Thomas is initially happy to hear that, as he didn't want her involved in the first place. He misreads the situation, thinking Vincent and her have called it quits, but Vincent clarifies no such thing has happened. Vincent then expresses his irritation at Thomas' jealousy, not understanding why Thomas can't be happy for him if he were truly a friend. For Thomas, Vincent has changed since he met Rebecca. He and Vincent used to spend more time together. He tries to affectionately stroke Vincent's arm, but Vincent pulls away. He then asks why Vincent can't reconsider seeing the surgeon, and Vincent remains adamant that the client's violent nature is a hindrance. Vincent waits to pick up Rebecca from school, but learns from her friend, Belen, that Rebecca is homesick. He goes over to her house and Rebecca suggests he quits the prostitution job. She plans to get a job after her exams and suggests Vincent can get one too, as she's already thinking of their future as a couple. He mentions he wasn't planning to be a prostitute all his life, stating how he saves some of the money. While they talk, he gets a text he chooses to ignore. When he leaves Rebecca out of earshot, Vincent calls Thomas to arrange a meeting with the surgeon. A guy named Karam has replied to the message Herve sent out to Vincent's profile. Karam's reply states Vincent is not available, but he is. Herve checks out the profile. Bianchini has pulled up on the system and takes to calling Karam to set an appointment. Karam picks, and they're able to set a meeting for 3 p.m. at a hotel called Salo. Herve meets up with Karam, and Herve plays along for a while until he deems it fit to go detective mode. Karam takes off running, and Bianchini tails him to a residence. By the time Herve arrives, Karina is also present, and they have intel that Thomas is the pimp. They raid and are able to apprehend Thomas, hauling him in handcuffs to the police station. The interrogations begin. Herve wants to know what Vincent's phone was doing in Thomas' bag. On the device is a video Vincent filmed of his session with a client which he used as blackmail, and Herve asks Thomas if he was aware. Other questions include where he was on Saturday and if he saw Vincent that day. Thomas is uncooperative and fidgety, and Herve picks on that. Time passes and Thomas remains tight-lipped. Vincent and Lola have a session with the eye surgeon. Vincent takes to recording while Lola distracts the surgeon from noticing. Later in the evening, Vincent goes to the cyber cafe to send his blackmail and then calls the surgeon to check his email. The surgeon calls back almost immediately and Vincent demands 10,000 euros in small notes, threatening to leak the videos should the surgeon not cooperate. They arrange to meet at 11 p.m. the next day at a shopping center's car park. Rebecca visits an agitated Vincent and tells him she knows of the blackmail because Thomas informed her to blame her. Rebecca tries to discourage him, but he remains adamant. She then decides she'll go with Vincent to receive the money. A ranger found Vincent's abandoned scooter, so Herve and Karina are called to the scene. In its compartment, they find a blood-stained helmet. The area has a CCTV camera they can retrieve footages from, so Herve makes a call. Vincent and Herve arrive on the scooter to see the surgeon. He comes alone in his car and hands over the envelope to Vincent. The surgeon asks how he can be sure there will be no more blackmails, and Vincent promises there won't. He confirms the money and starts to walk away. But the surgeon gets out of the car with a weapon he uses to strike Vincent. Rebecca intervenes, using her helmet to strike the surgeon down severely on the head till he's no longer moving. The surgeon is no longer alive, so they place the body in the trunk of his car. They return to Vincent's trailer home, where Rebecca tends to his wounds. She voices that he calls Thomas to tell him the blackmail is over. Afterwards, they'll elope. Rebecca still feels sick, but tells Vincent she'll head home to pack some things and return. She straddles and kisses him, and he watches her leave. On her way home, she stops at a pharmacy to get medicine for her upset tummy, but the pharmacist suggests she run a pregnancy test first. The test comes out positive, and from the smile on Rebecca's face, this isn't terrible news. Thomas goes to Vincent's house, and they have an altercation about Rebecca. Rebecca calls Vincent, but it goes to voicemail. She leaves a message that he should call back as she has important news to share. Little does she know that Thomas has the upper hand in their altercation and is strangling Vincent to his demise. Thomas lays in defeat by Vincent's corpse and cries. Herve and Karina have discovered the surgeon's body with the club he used to attack Vincent still stashed in his abandoned car. Herve takes Thomas back in for interrogation, promising he'll be detained another day because he's now a suspect of both Vincent and the surgeon's murder. Thomas gets aggressive and is still uncooperative until he's shown the photographs of Vincent's corpse. This breaks Thomas down, and he admits it was a crime of passion. The CCTV footage comes in, and Herve sees it was Rebecca who disposed the scooter. He and Karina go to Belen's house where they find Rebecca. Rebecca has been over at her friend's for a week, and Herve finds a pregnancy test and some cash in her satchel. Rebecca is taken to the station to give her statement. Herve reads out what they have so far and needs her to complete it. Whatever she admits next would implicate or exonerate her. She stalls, and Herve decides on her behalf to go for exoneration. He suggests what should have happened next. Vincent, the one with her helmet, trying to defend himself and hurting the surgeon. Herve calls for a break, and Karina reminds him Vincent's prints are not on the helmet, implicating only Rebecca. Herve gives the probable excuse of Vincent wearing gloves, but Karina feels they're risking getting in trouble if they choose to take judgment into their own hands. Herve makes Karina see Rebecca is pregnant and needs to be there for the baby he knows she plans to keep. The 5-minute break is over, and Herve resumes taking Rebecca's statement. Rebecca confesses it was her, not Vincent, but Herve lets on that he's aware. He would, however, prefer she signs the papers and goes home. Months later, Herve comes to pick Rebecca to drive her to the cemetery. Rebecca, who is a few weeks pregnant and showing, pays her respect to Vincent, then goes with Herve to a cafe for some food. He asks her what she plans to do next, and she states she doesn't know. What she would like at the moment, though, is to go on a first-name basis with Herve.